I believe that religion, the majority of it, has thrived off of the natural inclination towards ethnocentricity, which means that you don't like people. It's the in-group and the out-group. People in the in-group are awesome. The people in the out-group are terrible, and they're never as happy as people in the in-group, and they just don't have the truth, and at least we have the truth, and, you know, I think there's a difference between feeling like you've reached a conclusion that is truth, and and putting down other people and saying that other people, they just can't be as happy as they can without me. They just can't live as productive as a life as they could without me. You know what I mean? I feel like it's incredibly abusive. If you had a boyfriend or a girlfriend or I was gonna say trans friend, but I guess never mind. You know what I'm talking about. If you were in a relationship with someone and they looked you in the eye and said, "Listen, I just need you to know that you will never be happy without me. I am what makes you happy." And I mean, to an extent, it might make you happy to be with that person, to have that person in your life, to wake up next to that person might make you happy, to have that person to talk to, you might connect with that person, that makes you happy. But to say, you will never be happy without me, that would be an abusive statement. And I think it's just as abusive when organizations say it, when certain sororities or fraternities say it, when religions say it, when governments say it. Anyway, because it's not about, you can be happier one place and not another because of certain things that make you happy, right? But I don't think it's right to say that everyone can be happy this way, and if you're not, there's a problem with you. Do you know what I mean? Anyway. Do you remember when I talked about not being as articulate as I would like? This is what I was talking about. What else do I believe? I believe that people who are suicidal, there comes a time, I think emotional pain is just as legitimate as physical pain. And if someone is in a position where they are under extreme physical duress that is not going to get better, I think it's fine to die. I think that's fine. And I think it's difficult for the other people involved in that person's life. And of course, it may be a case-by-case basis, but I don't think it's wrong to end your life. And I think the same thing about emotional pain. And I think, though, that's a lot more tricky, because when you feel emotional pain, it may feel very convincing that this is never going to go away, even though it can get better. I know I was suicidal for years, and for a lot of reasons, one of which I felt wrong in my body, another, I was raped. I've just had a lot of trauma. And I'm at a very stable and happier part of my life than I have ever been in. And it's been forever since I felt majorly depressed or suicidal. And that is a blessing. I can't tell you, because after spending years, I don't even really know if it's my brain chemistry anymore, or if it's just the trauma that I endured. I had a lot of abuse, emotional. The rape was sexual and spiritual from the Mormon Church. And I will say part of the reason, I don't mean to offend anyone, but part of the reason that I was suicidal is because I was what I thought was gay, right? Because I was a woman attracted to other women. And I I thought I could never change. I thought I would be lonely for my whole life. I thought that I was disgusting. And, I mean, you read... Spencer W. Kimball is a previous prophet of the church. And a lot of people I know love and respect these prophets and apostles, and I don't mean to offend anybody. I'm just speaking as fact. His words sent me into a major depression and made me feel very, very much like I wanted to die. He discussed the, Hi. Hi. How are you? He discussed homosexuality in his book, Miracle of Forgiveness, as heinous and ugly and disgusting. And he said in the time of Moses, under Mosaic law, homosexuals were given the death penalty. They would be killed. And then he quotes the scripture. And then he goes on to say that it's really just a shame that society has loosened on its morals. Boyd K. Packer, an apostle, who is someone I do not like, sorry to say, he gave a talk to the young men in the church, which then became a pamphlet, to young men only. That's what the name of on the pamphlet. And then they gave it to young men, and it was actually, interestingly enough, it was actually in the court. Matthew Shepard's killer had been given this pamphlet, and they actually brought it up in court because they were like, "What?" You know what I mean? In it, he talks about masturbation, and the original one, which they've since changed, talks about how when you masturbate, you have a little factory. When you masturbate, you're giving up some of the stuff that is made in that little factory. And it was interesting because he was specific, but he was also very cryptic in his specifications, or in his specificity. Anyway, but at the end of it, he talked about the other thing is homosexuals, and be careful not to hang out with homosexuals because homosexuals might try to make you gay. And then he says, and he doesn't specify. This is anyway. So he says he was meeting with missionaries. I don't remember what calling he had, but he was meeting with missionaries. And a missionary came in, and the interview went great. And then the missionary looked really guilty and said he had something to confess, that he had floored his companion. Now, in the mission field, it is a serious offense to hit your companion. Serious. They will send you home often if you do. And I say that because I've heard stories of people being sent home for hitting their companions, right? And I don't mean like hitting, I mean like hitting. So this guy floored. He didn't hit, he punched. He floored his companion. And Boyd K. Packer asks him what he did, and he never tells the young men exactly why he floored his companion. He just says, be careful about homosexuals. And then there was this guy who floored his companion, and he tells the young man, the missionary who floored his companion, "Oh, well, you know, I wouldn't, well, at least you did something." What did he say? I'm glad you did it because the general presidency of the church could not." And then he tells the young men in the audience, 2 young men only, "This is an option I don't recommend, but I don't omit." Which is still a recommendation. Okay, this is still a recommendation. If you're like, you know, I wouldn't say do it, but I wouldn't say don't do it too. That's like, it seems to me like I wouldn't recommend it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But I don't omit it either, you know. So that's why they brought it up in Matthew Shepard's trial, because one of the young men who assaulted him, had been given the pamphlet, and they were wondering if that was part of